Hello, BookTube. All right, we're resuming my library tour. This library tour of our east wall is all history, and we have our book sorting cap on. You'll notice that track print. Your first impression might be, oh, there's a cute little fox nearby. But no, if you count, that's 5 toes. And that means there's a bad-tempered 1,000-pound killing machine nearby. And we're just gonna go through the remaining. We've got one more bookcase to do of history. It's pretty packed, and then we'll be done with this entire room. We will have made it all the way around. Right across from me is the biography section, where we started 10 years ago. And I figure, since we've got a rhythm going, we'll just go on. We'll just go round the corner into the little book room and just continue with the book tour. But first, we're gonna get through this. I've got a stack just piled vertically, and we're gonna see if we can get through that today. So this first one is by Mal Hyman. This is called Burying the Lead, the Media and the JFK Assassination. This is all about how the media and the first wave of books reported on President Kennedy's assassination. And it's got, of course, as you can tell from the title, it's got a bit of conspiratorial leanings. There's a lot in it that I really liked, so I kept it, although it's not with my other Kennedy books. Okay, then we have, all right, this is an advance copy from May. This is Wade McCluskey and the Battle of Midway by David Rigby from Osprey Press. But a celebrated dive bomber during the Battle of Midway who, according to this author, bears the weight of the victory on his shoulders almost alone. And Wade McCluskey is going to feature in the upcoming movie Midway quite prominently. I think a large part of that book is touched base with this book, or a large part of that movie touched base with this book in the course of its construction. I liked this very much. I kept it, but it belongs with World War II. Okay, all right, this is George Doggin. This is 1812, the Navy's War. Best 1812. This guy has done, I think, 2 books on the War of 1812. Best writer on the War of 1812 that I've ever read. And this specifically, the War of 1812, was largely a Navy war, and this is just terrific. Boy, oh boy. His understanding of the comprehensive bigger picture of the war is exceeded by his ability to narrate naval action, wooden vessel sailing naval action, which is very, very dramatic, and we have endless first-hand accounts to fill in all the details. So you would think it wouldn't be that hard, but a lot of writers can't do it. A lot of them can't do it. The foremost, for instance, canonical author on the War of 1812 is an author named Hickey, who doesn't do that well at all. So you have no sense of what was at stake or how the battle, those key battles were fought. Whereas the Canadian historian Pierre Burton does a great job. Okay, all right, these next 2 are Pimlico paperbacks. I love Pimlico paperbacks. If you ever see a Pimlico paperback at your used bookstore, take out the phone that you have on your person at all times, take a picture, and email it to me so that you can find out by the number of exclamation points that I use in my reply whether or not you should buy it and send it to me. But this is a set. These are 2 books by Vincent Cronin. The Flowering the Renaissance and the Florentine Renaissance. These are 2 Pimlico paperbacks. His basically, pop culture overviews of the high points of the Renaissance. So you get Leonardo, you get Lorenzo the Magnificent, you get Machiavelli and Cesare Borgia and whatnot. There's nothing groundbreaking here at all. This is not, nor was it ever meant to be, steep scholarly work. Instead, this is a delightful overview. I was very happy. I had them for a while in really ratty hardcovers, because I go back to them quite a bit. And my hardcovers showed it. And then I happened to find that these 2 Pimlico paperbacks, I got rid of my hardcovers. I would like Pimlico paperbacks of quite a few more things. There are quite a few out there that I don't have. Okay, this next one is a UK trade paperback of Paul Thomas Murphy's Shooting Victoria, which is, on the surface, exactly what it sounds like. It's his extremely detailed account of all the assassination attempts made on Queen Victoria during her reign, and the men who made them, and what their backgrounds were like, and what the manhunt was like, and what the legal aftermath was like. In that regard, it's like nothing else that I know of written about Victoria. But actually, this author manages to broaden that story. Even so, even though that story is broad to begin with, manages to broaden that story to how people looked at the monarchy, and how that that view of the monarchy changed over time. This is, I mean, I read it and really liked it when it first came out, but in retrospect, the more I think about it, the more I think that it really is one of the most interesting books about Victoria that I have ever read. And I've read a lot of them. Most of them are so dumb. This one wasn't, so I was glad to find it. I got rid of I got the advanced copy, I got the finished copy, and I got rid of them both. And this is a Head of Zeus publication, and this is, I like it better. It's thicker, it's got heavier paper stock. I like it better than the American version, so I'm glad that I found it. Okay, all right, our halfway point here is the same as our beginning. This is about the Kennedy assassination, only this is Robert Kennedy, and this is Shadow Play, a reprint. This is a reprint of, this reprint got to me in April of 2018. The book came out originally 10 years before that. And it's further proof of what I always say on this channel, which is that I don't really need to go to used bookstores at all. I love doing it. I absolutely love doing it, but I don't really need to unless I'm looking for Signet Regency romances, because anything else, almost anything else, is going to get reprinted and sent to me. I mean, whether I like it or not, whether I like the book or not. I like this quite a bit. It's very, very thought-provoking. The forensic evidence, the video evidence, the audio evidence for the assassination of Robert Kennedy is bad. It is very, very bad. It is very, very contradictory, inconclusive. If you had just that and you didn't know anything about an older brother being killed, and you didn't know anything about the crazy odor of conspiracy theories that attached to that previous killing, and you didn't know anything about Robert Kennedy, if you changed all the names to Smith and just look at the evidence for this, and then look at the official account of what that evidence says, you would say, that's not true. I watched the tape. I watched the film. I had an old friend who did a lot of good work on the subject, knew a lot of other people who did good work on the subject, even though a lot of those other people were fruity as loons. And you know, this 60 years after the fact, you could say it doesn't matter, but I thought this was fascinating. I was very glad to get it back in print and directly to me. And you know, it won't be just books that I find interesting or that I want to add to my collection. It will be anything. Right? I mean, we know that it will be anything. When we hit the 25-year anniversary mark of The Corrections by Jonathan Franzen, I will get that in the mail, even though I didn't like the book. I still do mean to go to used bookstores. I am going to take you to the Brattle as soon as this little mini heat wave that Boston is enjoying ends. So as soon as that is over, I will take you back to the Brattle. This is fantastic. This was just fantastic. God, I love this book. One of the best books on the subject, and of course there are whole buildings full of books on this subject. This is by Ian Black, and it's called Enemies and Neighbors. And it's about the Arabs and the Jews for the last century. And it's a big thing, and it's comprehensive and fairly steep. So I get a lot of people who ask me, you know, I know this Arab and Israeli conflict is tangled and complicated and has a long history. Where do I start? I get that a lot. I get where do I start emails on a lot of subjects, but I get it on this one reliably, and not just from all of you either, but from readers at the various publications where I write, who over the years have done me the favor of sort of latching onto me, of sort of liking the voice in my reviews and the fact that I am perfectly willing to respond to anybody. Unlike some of my reviewing brethren, don't do that. Some of them are the equivalent of the big booktubers who consider their subscribers to be, as they put it, vermin, and who wouldn't dream of going into their own comments field, much less emailing anyone privately. They wouldn't dream of doing that. Literally wouldn't dream of doing it. And unfortunately, there are quite a few professional reviewers who are the same way. And to both of those groups of people, I always want to say the same thing. You're in about 10 minutes, you're going to be dead. And you're not going to a separate seating area in Valhalla. You're going to be dead just like everybody else. The whole name of the game for being here is contact. The whole name of the game is only connect. But in one way, I'm not going to change everybody's mind, but I love to connect directly with people. And readers like it. I found readers like it. Actually, we all like it here on this channel too. I wouldn't do without that at all. But people have asked me, and the long point of that digression is that people have asked me what's a good book to start on, and some people have brought up Ian Black's book, and I have to tell them the same thing. It's a fantastic book on the subject, maybe the best book that I've read on the subject, but it's nowhere to start. Yeah, I mean, you got to read up on Wikipedia first. You got to look at a basic introductory volume first. I'm sure there are dozens of them out there. Maybe watch some videos, some debates, and claw your way to a basic understanding of the groundwork first, and then look at a big history like this. But once again, I was glad to get it. Let's see here. Okay, this is Akhil Reed Amar's book, The Constitution Today. But this is not today. This was from a few years ago. When did this come out? 2016. Yes, this came out in 2016. So is Donald Trump even mentioned in this book? Is he even mentioned in this book? Yes, he's mentioned 4 times in this book. He would be mentioned 400 times if this came out today. So it's a more innocent time. And I love constitutional overviews. I just find them fascinating. Even when they take the form of quasi-fiction. Sebastian de Gracia, a great biographer of Machiavelli, did a book about the U.S. Constitution that he pitched it as quasi-fictional. I think it's called The Country That Doesn't Exist, or something like that, some dumb title. I don't know what it was called in Italian. Maybe that wasn't it in Italian, but I only read the English translation of this one, and it was fascinating. It was fascinating. It underscores something that has always bothered me about the U.S. Constitution, which is that it's a legal binding document. It was written and conceived and drawn up by lawyers between 2 parties. and one of the parties is still around, the U.S. government. The other party is not. There are no Americans from then that are still around. So one of the great conceits of that book is that it isn't a binding document anymore. I love stuff like this. I liked this one. There are some that I've liked more. I'm not really sure what this is doing here, but that's part of the goal of a library tour. Okay. All right, this is a big vintage paperback. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. I read this, and I think I reviewed it when it first came out in hardcover, and then Vintage gave it a gorgeous hardcover, or trade paperback years later. This is Robert Toombs' The English and Their History. Big, thick thing, full of reviews. Just wonderful, wonderful reading. And I didn't expect it. I mean, I expected that it would come out in paperback, but I didn't expect that the paperback would have this kind of monumental, elegant simplicity to it. My hat's off to its design, because you don't usually see that in American book publications. Okay, this is another huge one. This is a UK trade paperback of Norman Davies' The Isles, a history of the Isles, of the massive shockwaves of history that emanate from this comparatively tiny piece of geography. This is a huge book. I really enjoyed it. I'm not sure I enjoyed it enough to keep it, but here it is. Then we have Shashi Tharoor. This is Inglorious Empire, What the British Did to India. This is Scribe, who are distributed by okay, I don't see it here. I don't think they have an American distributor, but I know this is not the only Tharoor book that they distributed in these tough trade paperbacks. This is a terrific writer, terrific polemical writer, and he did another one called Why I Am a Muslim that is here somewhere, that I was also impressed by. That's the sort of thing where I didn't really know about the author. I think the most I knew about the author was the occasional letter to the editor, and then I started getting these reprints, and I started liking them a lot. Okay, our last book for today. This is not bad for time. That's great. We got through this whole stack in no time at all. Our last one for today is a work of classics. So it doesn't. It's a translation of a classical text, so it doesn't actually belong here. I have a place for that. This is The Wars of Justinian by Procopius, translated by H.B. Dewing, with an introduction by Anthony Caldelis, who's a historian I have praised on this channel before. He's a Byzantine historian of the first walk. Just incredible. Get anything that he writes. He's just amazing. And he did the introduction and the notes for the Dewing translation, and also updated it smoothed it around a little. And you can tell that doing is a little bit on the pretentious side because Procopius is spelled with a K. Procopius was a historian under Justinian, and he was a fan and a staff member for General Belisarius, and is famous for having written the Wars of Justinian and the Buildings of Justinian and all these official histories, while at the same time penning the secret history. A scandalous, gossip-filled book that we have, and that is terrific reading. And don't take any of it seriously, but it's terrific reading. Professor Dewing might not like it, but there's such a thing as common usage. Classical terms from the classical world go into common usage. And if you deny that, if you defy that in your translation, you are being pretentious. There's no other way around it. There's no way to justify it. Yes, you are correct, but you are being pretentious. So when Robert Fitzgerald does an entire translation of the Iliad in which Achilles is Achilleus, he's being pretentious. Procopius with a K is being pretentious, but that's okay, because the translation is, this edition is fantastic. The combination of the Dewing translation, which really brings, Justinian is a very lively writer, even when he's writing official prose, and the Caldelis notes and revisions make it even better. This is a great tag team volume, but it doesn't belong out here. I'm going to put it right back where I found it, but only because I'm going to be redoing these whole shelves. And that is, we're at 16 minutes, and that is the first stack of books that we have here. I'm going to wrap it up here rather than go to 35 or 40 minutes, but I'll be back tomorrow. We will just continue with this history tour. So I'll see you then. Thank you, Book 2.